There is a two-letter word that most people spend their entire lives struggling to say. Not because they don't know it exists. Not because they don't feel it rising inside them clear, certain, undeniable in the moment someone asks something of them that they cannot genuinely give. But because the moment the word forms, something else arrives immediately behind it. Guilt. Anxiety. The fear of disappointing. The image of the other person's face falling. The voice that says, "Who are you to say no?" After everything they've done, after how much they need this. And so the no becomes a yes. And the yes slowly becomes a resentment. And the resentment slowly becomes a distance between you and your own life. In the last two videos, we explored where this comes from. The fawn response, the survival strategy, built in environments where keeping the peace felt more urgent than keeping yourself. The emotional parentification, the early programming that fused your sense of safety with other people's emotional comfort, those are the roots. This video is about the practice. What it actually looks like in real moments, with real people to begin saying no, and to survive the guilt that follows without collapsing back into yes. First, let's be honest about what a boundary actually is. Because the word has become so overused that it has started to lose its meaning. A boundary is not a punishment. It is not a wall. It is not a declaration of war or an act of selfishness or proof that you don't care. A boundary is simply an honest statement of what is true for you, what you can genuinely offer and what you cannot, what serves both of you and what serves neither, what is sustainable and what, if you continue, will cost something that cannot be recovered. Boundaries are not about controlling other people's behavior. They're about being honest about your own. And that honesty, however uncomfortable, is one of the most respectful things you can offer another person. Because a yes that comes from fear is not a gift. It is a performance, and it builds a relationship on something that isn't real. Now let's talk about the guilt, because this is what stops most people before they begin. The guilt arrives so fast, so convincingly, that most people interpret it as moral information, as though guilt means you have done something wrong. But guilt, in this context, is not moral information. It is neurological habit. It is the nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do, flagging deviation from the pattern it learned was required for safety. You spent years, perhaps decades, learning that your acceptability was conditional on accommodation, that love was contingent on usefulness, that taking up space, having needs, or disappointing people carried real consequences. The guilt is the old system protecting you from what it still believes is danger. It is not truth. It is history. And here is something that very few people tell you about guilt when you begin to set boundaries. It doesn't disappear immediately. This surprises people. They expect that once they understand where it comes from, once they can see it clearly as a trained response, rather than a moral verdict, it should dissolve. It doesn't. It gets quieter, gradually, with a repetition. But in the early stages, you will say no and still feel guilty. You will hold a boundary and still lie awake, wondering if you were wrong. You will disappoint someone and still feel the familiar pull to go back and fix it. The practice is not waiting until the guilt disappears before you act. The practice is acting imperfectly, with shaking hands, with the guilt fully present and surviving it anyway. Because every time you survive the guilt without collapsing back into the yes, you teach the nervous system something new. I said no. The relationship survived. I am still acceptable. I am still safe. Each repetition lays down a new pathway. Each held boundary is evidence against a belief that was built before you were old enough to question it. Let's talk about what a no actually sounds like in practice. Because one of the reasons people avoid it is that they don't know how to deliver it without it feeling like an attack, an abandonment, or a permanent rupture. A no does not need a lengthy justification. It does not need an apology threaded through it. It does not need to come wrapped in so many qualifications that the person receiving it isn't sure they heard it. I can't do that. That doesn't work for me. I need to say no to this. Simple, clear, said with warmth, with eye contact, without the trail of self-explanation that secretly asks the other person to give you permission to have said it. The discomfort you feel after is not evidence that you were wrong. It is evidence that you did something unfamiliar. Unfamiliar and wrong are not the same thing. There is something else that happens, something unexpected, when people begin to set genuine boundaries. Some relationships get easier. The ones built on something real, on genuine mutual respect and care, breathe more easily when honesty enters them. The other person, even if momentarily disappointed, adjusts. The dynamic becomes more honest on both sides, and the connection deepens because it is now between two actual people rather than between one person and a performance. Some relationships get harder, and that information is also important, because a relationship that only functions when you have no limits, one that requires your constant accommodation to survive, is not a relationship built on love. It is a relationship built on your compliance. And you deserve more than that. The people who love you truly love you can handle your no. They do not need you to be endlessly available, endlessly agreeable, endlessly useful. They want you, the actual you, with your preferences, your limits, your truth, and the only way to give them that is to stop offering the version that says yes when it means something else entirely. One more thing, the most important no is not always the one you say to other people. Sometimes the most important no is the one you say to the version of yourself that keeps agreeing to things that cost you out of habit, out of fear, out of the deep and unexamined belief that your worth is something you have to earn. No, I'm not doing this because I'm afraid. No, I am not shrinking myself for someone else's comfort. No, I am not handing my peace over to a pattern I didn't choose. That no, said quietly, said to yourself, in whatever moment it becomes necessary, is where everything begins to change. Subscribe and press the bell icon, because in the next video, we go into something that will make you question every difficult situation you have ever stayed in too long. Why intelligent, self-aware, psychologically informed people remain in relationships and environments that are clearly hurting them, and the hidden mechanism inside the brain that makes leaving feel more dangerous than staying. Once you understand this, you will never again judge yourself or anyone else for not leaving sooner.